You text her something vulnerable. You're being honest about your insecurities, your fears, your need for her reassurance. You think this is intimacy. You think this is connection. You think emotional openness is the path to deeper attraction. Here is what actually happens. She reads it. She feels momentary sympathy. Then something shifts. The attraction dies. Not because you were honest, but because you revealed that your emotional state depends on her response, that you need her validation, that you are not in control of yourself. This is the Emotional Subsidy Protocol, and it is the single biggest reason high-value men lose attraction before the dynamic even starts. Here is what happens when you fail to fix this. She stops pursuing. She stops investing. The dynamic becomes transactional. She calls when she needs emotional support. You respond. Nothing deepens. The relationship plateaus into a friendship with occasional physical contact until that disappears too. You become her therapist, her validation engine, her emotional support infrastructure, and the entire time you tell yourself you are building intimacy by being open and vulnerable. You are not. You are funding her emotional stability while your frame collapses. And here is the cost. She starts pulling back. She becomes less responsive, less engaged, less respectful. She is not rejecting you because you did something wrong. She is rejecting you because you gave her everything for free, and free things have no value. The dynamic is dead, and you cannot reverse it by giving more. You can only stop the leak and rebuild from a position of scarcity. This video breaks down the exact mechanism and gives you the tactical correction to eliminate this leak permanently. That is the shift we deploy today. Here is what this looks like in practice. You text her, "I've been feeling really disconnected lately. I need to know if you're still invested in this. I'm feeling insecure about where we stand." She responds, "I'm just really busy right now. Let's talk later." You text back, "I understand. I just wanted to make sure we're okay." You think you are being honest and communicating your needs. You are not. You are revealing that your emotional state depends on her validation. You are subsidizing her emotional comfort by reassuring her that she does not need to invest anything to keep your attention. You are demonstrating that you will adjust your behavior based on her response. The correct move: say nothing. Do not seek reassurance. Do not explain your emotional state. Observe the dynamic. If she is not investing, withdraw your investment. The dynamic will either correct itself or it will end. Both outcomes provide information. Both are better than subsidizing her emotional state while yours collapses. Here is what is actually happening. The Emotional Subsidy Protocol operates on two internal failures that destroy attraction from the inside out: the subsidy mechanism and sovereignty collapse. Both operate simultaneously. Both reinforce each other. And both convert you from a high-value position into an emotional resource. The subsidy mechanism. You provide emotional labor without receiving equivalent return. Every time you validate her feelings, reassure her insecurities, or solve her emotional problems without her investing equivalent effort into the dynamic, you create a one-way value transfer. She receives the benefit: emotional support, validation, comfort. You receive nothing except the false belief that you are building connection. This is reciprocity failure. In high-leverage dynamics, both parties must invest equally to maintain momentum. When you subsidize her emotional state, you eliminate her need to invest. She becomes the receiver. You become the provider. That is not a romantic dynamic. That is a service relationship. Think of it like a server architecture. If one server is constantly sending data to another server without receiving any data in return, the sending server depletes its resources while the receiving server operates at maximum efficiency. The relationship is not balanced. It is parasitic. Why does this kill attraction? Because scarcity is the foundation of value. If your emotional availability is unlimited, it has no value. If your validation is freely given, it has no weight. The subsidy mechanism converts you from a scarce, high-value resource into an abundant, low-value utility. And utilities are functional. They are not attractive. Now the second failure: sovereignty collapse. This is the internal consequence of the subsidy mechanism. Sovereignty is your ability to maintain emotional independence regardless of external dynamics. It is the psychological equivalent of territorial control. When you subsidize her emotional state, you surrender your sovereignty by tying your emotional well-being to her response. Here is the collapse sequence. First, you open emotionally. Second, you wait for her response. Third, You calibrate your next move based on whether she validates or dismisses your emotional offering. Fourth, you adjust your behavior to secure the validation you need. Fifth, you are now operating in her frame. Her feedback is the primary input for your emotional state. You no longer control your emotional reality. She does. This is sovereignty collapse. You have tied your emotional well-being to her response. If she validates you, you feel secure. If she dismisses you, you feel anxious. You check your phone compulsively. You analyze her response time. You adjust your behavior based on her engagement level. You are no longer the operator. You are the operated. Think of sovereignty as a firewall. The firewall determines what external signals can influence your internal system. When you maintain sovereignty, you control which inputs affect your emotional state. When you collapse sovereignty, you give external actors, specifically her, direct access to your emotional operating system. Every signal she sends becomes a command. Every response she gives becomes a directive. Sovereignty collapse destroys attraction because it removes the fundamental requirement of psychological momentum, uncertainty. If she knows exactly how you feel, what you need, and how you will respond, there is no tension, no mystery, no challenge. The dynamic becomes predictable. And predictability is the death of attraction. Subsidy and sovereignty collapse operate together. The more you subsidize, the more you collapse your sovereignty. The more you collapse your sovereignty, the more you subsidize. The loop reinforces itself until the dynamic is dead. Now the external consequences. The subsidy sovereignty collapse destroys your internal state. Frame inversion and scarcity failure destroy her perception of you. Both operate at the level of observable behavior. Both kill attraction immediately, but they are not parallel problems, they are sequential. Frame inversion is the immediate cause. Scarcity failure is the long-term consequence. Mistake 1. Frame inversion. Frame inversion occurs when you attempt to create intimacy through emotional sharing, but instead create a power reversal. You enter the interaction holding the dominant frame. You exit operating in her frame. Here is the mechanism. You believe that by sharing your emotional state, you are inviting her into your reality. You are not. You are asking for permission to occupy her reality. You are seeking validation for your emotional experience. You are requesting confirmation that your feelings are legitimate, acceptable, worthy of her attention. This is frame surrender. The moment you seek validation, you hand her the frame. She becomes the judge. You become the supplicant. She evaluates your emotional offering and determines its worth. You wait for her verdict. You entered as the leader, you exit as the follower. Here is what this looks like in conversation. I just want to be honest with you. I'm really into you, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I need to know where you stand. Her. I like spending time with you, but I'm not sure where this is going. You. I totally understand. I just wanted to put it out there. No pressure. You think you are being vulnerable and honest. You are not. You are seeking validation for your emotional experience. You are requesting confirmation that your feelings are acceptable. You are demonstrating that you will adjust your position based on her response. You have handed her the frame. In military strategy, this is known as ceding the high ground. You voluntarily move from a position of strategic advantage to a position of strategic vulnerability. Once you are on low ground, every move you make is defensive. Every action is reactive. You are no longer controlling the engagement. You are responding to her control. Frame inversion destroys attraction because she is testing whether you can hold the frame under pressure. When you invert the frame by seeking emotional validation, you fail the test. The attraction mechanism shuts down immediately. The correction. Do not seek validation for your emotional state. If you feel the need to share something vulnerable, ask yourself, am I sharing this to deepen an existing high-value dynamic, or am I seeking confirmation that my feelings are acceptable? If the answer is the latter, do not share. Observe the impulse, let it pass, maintain the frame. Here is where most men make the second mistake. They do not realize that frame inversion leads directly to scarcity failure. Once you have surrendered the frame, scarcity no longer works because she no longer perceives you as a scarce resource. You have already shown that you need her more than she needs you. Your scarcity is not strategic, it is desperation. And desperation creates relief, not urgency. Mistake 2, scarcity failure, the long-term consequence. Scarcity is the economic principle that governs value. When supply exceeds demand, value collapses. When demand exceeds supply, value increases. The Emotional Subsidy Protocol creates unlimited supply of your emotional availability, which collapses its value to zero. Scarcity failure is what happens when you flood the market with your presence, your attention, your validation, and eliminate all urgency. Here is what this looks like in practice. Before scarcity recalibration, you text her throughout the day. You respond immediately to every message. You are always available when she needs emotional support. You validate her feelings, reassure her insecurities, and provide attention without requiring equivalent investment. She knows you are always accessible. She does not need to compete for your access. She does not need to invest to receive value. Result: she becomes indifferent. She stops pursuing. She stops investing. You do not provide emotional support unless she has demonstrated equivalent investment. You create conditional access. Emotional sharing becomes a reward for her investment, not a free offering. Result: she begins to invest. She initiates contact. She pursues your attention. She adjusts her behavior to secure access. Competition creates investment. Investment creates attachment. Attachment creates attraction. The diagnostic. How do you know if scarcity is working? If your absence creates pursuit and investment, scarcity is functioning correctly. If your absence creates indifference, you are operating in a dynamic where she holds higher perceived value. The fix is not more scarcity. The fix is to build tangible value in other areas: social proof, purpose, alternative options, before re-engaging. This is the critical edge case. Scarcity recalibration only works when you are already perceived as a scarce resource. If you are abundant in her reality, easily replaced, low social proof, no alternative options, strategic scarcity will not create demand, it will create relief. The diagnostic. If your absence makes her life easier rather than harder, you have no leverage to recalibrate. Build the value first. Deploy scarcity second. When you flood the market with your presence, your attention, your validation, you devalue the resource. She does not need to compete for your access. She does not need to invest to receive value. You have made yourself abundant, and abundance kills urgency. No urgency, no investment. No investment, no attraction. If she knows exactly how you feel, what you need, and how you will respond, there is no tension, no mystery, no challenge. The dynamic becomes predictable, and predictability is the death of attraction. Now, the tactical correction. Here are the 3 core moves to eliminate the Emotional Subsidy Protocol. Move 1. Cut the subsidy leak immediately. Most men identify the subsidy leak but keep doing it anyway while tracking it. That is not an audit. That is self-sabotage. This week, identify 3 instances where you are currently subsidizing her emotional state. Write them down. Examples: texting first every time, providing reassurance without her asking for it, validating her feelings when she has not invested equivalent effort. Specific action. In your next interaction with her, do not respond to one emotional request. Observe what happens. This tests whether you are actually subsidizing. The tell. If she does not notice or does not care, you are not subsidizing, you are just being nice. If she gets upset or pursues you, you are subsidizing. That is the leak. Next step. Cut that leak in the same interaction cycle. Every identified leak gets cut immediately. No exceptions, no rationalizing. If you find yourself thinking this one doesn't count or this situation is different, you have identified ego protection, not strategic analysis. Move 2. Deploy the sovereignty hold. Most men confuse suppression with sovereignty. They pause, then tense up, trying to control or eliminate the feeling. This is suppression, not sovereignty. True sovereignty observes the impulse without resistance. This week, practice the 60-second pause. When you feel the impulse to share your emotional state, pause and ask, am I seeking validation or creating connection? Specific action. Do this 3 times this week. Do not change your behavior yet, just observe. Notice what happens during the pause. Notice if the impulse changes or dissolves. The tell. If the impulse dissolves during observation, it was validation seeking. If it persists calmly after the full 60 seconds, it may be genuine connection. If you tense up during the hold jaw tension, shallow breathing, mental resistance, you are suppressing, not observing. Next step. Once you can distinguish between validation seeking and genuine connection, you control the impulse. Proceed with sharing only if she has earned access through prior investment. You are the firewall operator, not the firewall itself. Move 3. Establish conditional access. Most men turn conditional access into scorekeeping. They track who initiated last, who shared first, who invested more, and withhold support based on numerical balance. This is transactional, not strategic. This week, the next time she requests emotional support, validation, or reassurance, ask yourself, has she invested equivalent effort into my reality? Specific action. If the answer is no, provide support only after she demonstrates investment. This could be initiating contact first, offering her own vulnerability first, or investing time and attention into your reality. Make this conditional, not scorekeeping. The tell. Track the pattern over the next 10 interactions. Does she initiate at least 40% of the time? Does she invest emotional labor without you subsidizing first? If yes, conditional access is working. If no, she is not investing, you are still subsidizing. Next step. Adjust your availability based on the pattern, not the transaction. If you find yourself mentally calculating "she owes me" or "I gave more last time," you are operating from scarcity mindset, not scarcity positioning. 1 interaction is data, 10 interactions is a pattern. Respond to the pattern, not the scorecard. Now, here is the reality. Most men will execute these 3 moves and still hit resistance. When that happens, you need to know exactly which pillar is failing. Here is the diagnostic. When ESP execution fails, the failure occurs at a specific pillar. Use this decision tree to identify which pillar is compromised and what to do immediately. Quick diagnostic decision tree, 60 seconds. Answer these 4 questions to diagnose your failure state. Question 1. Is she pursuing you? Yes. Go to question 2. No. You are likely in scarcity failure, or she holds higher perceived value. See failure state 4. Question 2. When she pursues, do you feel anxious about her response? Yes. Failure state 1. Sovereignty collapse. Your emotional state is tied to her behavior. No. Go to question 3. Question 3. Does the dynamic feel platonic or friendly, not sexual? Yes. Failure state 2. Subsidy mechanism. You are providing free emotional labor. No. Go to question 4. Question 4. Did the dynamic shift after you opened up emotionally? Yes. Failure state 3. Frame inversion. You sought validation as she perceived weakness. No. You are likely executing correctly. Monitor the pattern over the next 10 interactions. Failure state 1. She's pursuing but you're anxious. Observable signal. She is pursuing but you feel anxious about her response. You check your phone compulsively. You analyze her response time. You adjust your behavior based on her engagement level. Root cause, sovereignty collapse. You have allowed her behavior to dictate your emotional state. Immediate correction. Execute the sovereignty hold immediately. Restore the firewall. Her pursuit is irrelevant to your emotional baseline. Long-term fix. Build emotional independence through purpose, options, and frame dominance. Your emotional state should be controlled by internal metrics, not her engagement level. Failure state 2. She's investing, but attraction isn't building. Observable signal. She is investing time and attention, but the dynamic feels platonic or friendly, not sexual. Root cause, subsidy mechanism. You are still providing free emotional labor despite her surface-level investment. Immediate correction. Audit the quality of her investment. Is she investing in you or in the emotional utility you provide? Cut the subsidy. Provide access only when her investment demonstrates attraction, not just attention. Long-term fix. Establish clear boundaries around emotional labor. She must demonstrate sexual investment, not just friendly engagement, to receive emotional access. Failure state 3. She pulls back after you share. Observable signal. The dynamic shifts after you opened up emotionally. She becomes less responsive, less engaged, or less respectful. Root cause. Frame inversion. You sought validation through vulnerability and she perceived it as frame surrender. Immediate correction. You cannot reverse frame inversion in the same interaction. Withdraw completely. Re-establish frame dominance in the next engagement cycle through action, not explanation. Long-term fix. Deploy vulnerability only after frame dominance is established and tested. Never seek validation through emotional sharing. Failure state 4. She shows indifference to your absence. Observable signal. Your strategic distance creates no observable response. She does not pursue, invest, or adjust her behavior. Root cause. Scarcity recalibration failure. You have either overapplied scarcity or misread the power dynamic. Most likely, she holds higher perceived value than you. Immediate correction. This is the edge case. If scarcity creates indifference rather than investment, you are operating in a dynamic where she holds higher perceived value. The fix is not more scarcity. The fix is to build tangible value in other areas, social proof, purpose, alternative options, before re-engaging. Long-term fix. Scarcity only works when you are already perceived as a scarce resource. Build the value first. Deploy scarcity second. See Edge Case 3 for the full recovery protocol. Stop. Before you read this section, confirm that you have executed the 3 core moves successfully. 1. You have cut the subsidy leak and she has noticed the shift. 2. You have deployed the sovereignty hold and you no longer feel anxious about her response. 3. You have established conditional access and she is investing at a higher level. If you have not done these 3 things, do not read this section. Skip it now and come back in 2-3 weeks. Attempting advanced calibration before mastering the basics will destroy your frame and backfire catastrophically. If you have done these 3 things, here is when strategic vulnerability becomes a power move instead of a weakness. The critical question: when is strategic vulnerability the correct tactical move? The answer is precise. Deploy vulnerability only after 3 conditions are confirmed. Condition 1. Frame dominance is established and tested. What this looks like: she consistently operates within your reality, not the reverse. She adjusts her schedule to yours. She invests effort to secure your time and attention. She complies with your frame without resistance. The test. Deploy a low-stakes assumption or challenge that forces her to react within your established reality. If she complies consistently across multiple interactions, frame dominance is established. If she resists or attempts to pull you into her frame, frame dominance is not established. Example: you make plans without seeking her approval first. You say, "We're doing X at Y time," rather than, "What do you want to do?" If she complies and adjusts to your frame, dominance is confirmed. If she pushes back or attempts to negotiate every decision, dominance is not established. Condition 2. Reciprocal investment over multiple cycles. What this looks like: she has demonstrated consistent investment over at least 10 interaction cycles. She initiates contact. She offers her own vulnerability first. She invests time, attention, and effort into your reality without prompting. The test. Track the pattern. Does she initiate contact at least 40% of the time? Does she invest emotional labor without you subsidizing first? Does she pursue your attention when you withdraw it? If the pattern shows consistent reciprocal investment, the condition is met. Example: over the past month, she has initiated contact 6 out of 10 times. She has offered vulnerability or asked for your guidance without you prompting. She has adjusted her behavior to secure your time. The pattern shows reciprocity. The condition is met. Condition 3. Vulnerability. Serves a strategic purpose. What this looks like: the vulnerability deepens an existing high-value dynamic. It does not create one. It accelerates intimacy in a relationship that already has attraction, investment, and frame dominance. It does not attempt to manufacture attraction where none exists. The test. Ask yourself, will this vulnerability create connection, or am I seeking validation? If the answer is validation, do not share. If the answer is connection and the first 2 conditions are met, proceed with calibrated vulnerability. Example: you are in a high-value relationship where she consistently invests, you hold the frame, and the dynamic is sexually charged. You share a specific vulnerability that relates to your purpose or mission. not to your need for her validation. This deepens the intimacy without collapsing the frame. If all three conditions exist, calibrated vulnerability can accelerate intimacy without collapsing the frame. But this is expert-level execution. If you are uncertain whether these three conditions exist, they do not default to the protocol. The subtle distinction: strategic scarcity versus avoidant attachment. Both look identical from the outside: reduced contact, limited emotional availability, physical distance. But the internal state is opposite. Strategic scarcity operates from abundance. You restrict access because you have options, purpose, and emotional independence. You are not withholding vulnerability out of fear. You are managing it strategically. Avoidant attachment operates from fear. You restrict access because intimacy triggers anxiety or because you are protecting yourself from rejection. You are withholding vulnerability because you fear the outcome. The diagnostic is internal, not external. If you feel relief when she stops pursuing, you are operating from avoidance. If you feel nothing, true indifference, you are operating from sovereignty. The tell: observable behavior. Avoidant men monitor her response to their distance. They check to see if she noticed. They adjust their behavior based on whether she pursues. Sovereign men do not track whether she notices. They do not check if she has responded. They do not adjust their behavior based on her reaction. Her response is irrelevant to their emotional baseline. Edge case 1. What if she's already withdrawn? The situation: she has already pulled back, withdrawn investment, or shown indifference. The dynamic is in recovery mode. The mistake: most men try to give more to win her back. This is the opposite of what works. The protocol: Week 1. Cut all emotional subsidies immediately. Do not initiate contact. Do not provide validation or reassurance. Do not explain what you are doing. Week 2-3. Observe the dynamic. If she pursues, the dynamic can be recovered. If she does not, the dynamic is dead. Both outcomes provide information. Week 4. If she pursues, execute the 3 core moves exactly as written. If she does not, move on. The tell: if she reaches out within 2 weeks, she is testing the new dynamic. Respond with conditional access. Provide attention only after she demonstrates investment. If she does not reach out within 2 weeks, she has already moved on. Accept the outcome and exit. Edge. Case 2. What if you're in a long-term relationship where you've already established the subsidy pattern? The situation: you have been subsidizing her emotional state for months or years. The pattern is deeply embedded. The mistake: most men try to change gradually. This does not work because she is used to the old dynamic. The protocol: Day 1. Announce the shift without explaining it. I've been doing some thinking about how I show up in this relationship. You're going to notice some changes. Do not explain what the changes are. Week 1-2. Execute the 3 core moves exactly as written. Cut subsidies, deploy sovereignty hold, establish conditional access. She will likely test the boundary. Do not break. Maintain the new dynamic. Week 3. The dynamic will either reset to a healthier balance, or she will escalate. Threats, ultimatums. Both outcomes provide information. The tell: if she adjusts her behavior within 2-3 weeks and begins investing more, the relationship can be recovered. If she escalates with emotional manipulation or threats, the relationship is over and you need to exit. Do not negotiate. Do not explain. Let the behavioral shift speak for itself. Edge case 3. What if she's higher value than you? The situation: she holds objectively higher perceived value, more options, higher social proof, more attractive alternatives. The mistake: most men deploy scarcity immediately. This does not work because she does not perceive you as scarce. The protocol: Month 1. Do not deploy scarcity. Instead, build tangible value in other areas. Social proof. Spend time with other people. Let her see you have a life. Purpose. Pursue a goal or project that matters to you. Let her see you are driven. Alternatives. Develop other options. Let her sense that you are not dependent on her. Month 2. Once your perceived value is comparable to hers, deploy scarcity. Restrict access. Create conditional availability. Month 3. Monitor the dynamic. If she invests, the dynamic is recovering. If she remains indifferent, exit. The tell. You will know your value is comparable when she starts pursuing you without you doing anything. If she is still indifferent after 4 weeks of value building, your perceived value is still lower than hers. Either continue building value or exit the dynamic entirely. You entered this video subsidizing her emotional life while destroying your own leverage. You now have the mechanism, the correction, and the diagnostic tools. The subsidy is eliminated, the frame is secured, the scarcity is restored. Execute this immediately. This week, cut 1 leak, deploy 1 sovereignty hold, establish 1 boundary. That is it. 1 move per day. By the end of the week, you will know if the dynamic is recoverable. If it is, report back in the comments with the word sovereign. If you execute this protocol and the dynamic shifts, I want to hear about it. That is how we build a community of men who understand that attraction is not created through vulnerability, it is created through leverage. This is where the real work happens. In the comments, in the application, in the transformation. Subscribe for the next breakdown, because most men will never understand this, and that is exactly why you will.